Hello, and welcome to another episode of The End of the Search. This one I call it Trust Nobody. Now, just before this might be misunderstood, I'm not talking about being suspicious or anything like that you cannot trust anyone. No, that's not what I'm pointing to. What I'm pointing to is that when you put your trust in anything of this world, in this case, a body, a person, you have to remember that we are not the doers, and people change their mind because we're not in charge of our lives. You see them, for example, when people get married. It says, until death do us apart. But have you seen the rate of divorces? Do you think people actually get married with the intention of getting divorced and going through a messy experience? Because some divorces can be very messy. And going through all the drama and hurting people's feelings or so. No, people get married because in their heart they said, I want to be with this person, I love this person, and they never imagined in a million years that they would get divorced. But once again, in this world, everything seems being transitory. We cannot put our trust in whatever that is not consistent. The trust we're pointing to here is the getting to know who you are. When you know what you are, interestingly enough, you're not even seeking for love. You are love. And that love that you are doesn't seek anything. It's not looking for anything to complete it. It's actually, if anything, extend itself because it's part of wholeness, and you are whole. You're whole and complete. When you feel that you're not whole because you think you're a separate entity, then we try to find other entities to somehow make us feel whole. To some people it could be money. To some people it could be status. To some people it could be a relationship. To some people it could be a body that looks in a particular way. But all of these are transitory experiences that have nothing to do with the fact that I am. These videos are pointing just to the remembering of I am. When that recognition is established, now you're whole, you're complete, you're fulfilled. And yes, the love that you are, you extend it to everything because this doesn't come from desire, it comes from the fact that you are. I like to share with you some words by Krishnamurti, which I loved. He said, when desire is not driving your thoughts, your choices, your life, there is a new energy, untouched by ambition or fear. That energy is love, and love is not born from desire. Love exists only when the self, meaning when the sense of identity, is absent. And that is true freedom. Most of us confuse love with desire, with attachment, with dependency. But love is not a product of thought. It is not something you can cultivate, practice, or repeat. Where desire exists, love cannot. Because desire is rooted in the self, the sense of identity, the seeming me. It's rooted in what I want, what I need, what I must have. Love, on the other hand, is without motive. It doesn't seek anything in return. That's why it is so rare. Most relationships are built on mutual desire. I give you something and you give me something back. That exchange is not love. It is a contract, a form of subtle transaction. So long as the mind is operating from desire, love remains hidden. And once again, interesting when he says that exchange is not love, is a contract, a form of subtle transaction. But once again, the human being is not consistent. The human being changes its mind. So, yeah, I can say this or say that, but in the end, I don't know if that could be the case. I don't know exactly who's the couple, that very famous couple, that they said that in their vows, they never put until death do us apart because they don't know how they're going to feel the next day. All they said is that as long as we love each other and we work at the relationship, then of course it seems as though it could work. And so far it has. But it's because that is what's supposed to happen in their journey. You see, if in your journey you're not supposed to be with that person for forever, as hard as you work on it, there's always going to be a reason as to why they're not supposed to be together. It doesn't have to be drama necessarily. But once again, when you're rooted in the fact that you are, which is where this is pointing to, you're free. And that love that you are can extend to everything. Does that mean that you cannot be in a relationship with someone or getting married or so? No, that could happen, but it doesn't have the same weight that it had before, when the reason why I was getting married or wanting that person is because I needed something from them. You see, that's a big difference. But they both can get married as a beautiful, wonderful experience, as part of a journey that may happen in this world of appearances. But the mind is never thinking in terms of I need you, and it's not thinking in terms of future. It's always present, just extending the love that you are. And that love is not exclusive, it's inclusive. And don't confuse the way you relate with someone with the love that I'm pointing to. For example, the way you relate with your partner, your spouse, definitely is going to be different with the way you're going to relate with your neighbor. You see, there's certain activities, maybe some intimacy that may take place, but it's just part of what happens in that relationship, if it's supposed to happen, of course. Doesn't mean that there's a rule that that's the way it has to happen. In my book, What Love May Be Is Not, I address in one of the chapters this idea that a relationship is when there's sex involved, and a friendship is when there's no sex involved. That have created so much conflict between people, because when they don't feel the desire to have sex, but they have an incredible amount of love and respect with each other, they think that they must not be in a relationship, that must not be a relationship, and therefore they even separate, because it's carrying this idea that no, I should have sex, because if I'm not having sex, we're good friends. Well, great. I mean, you can live with your best friends for the rest of your life. Doesn't have to be the relationship doesn't have to be that particular experience. That doesn't mean that you have to have sex in a relationship in order for this to be a relationship. No, if sex happens, great. If it doesn't happen, fine too, because in the end, you're at peace. You're happy. You're fulfilled. And once again, remember this idea of a sexual pleasure. This is just pleasure, and pleasure eventually leads to pain, because pleasure and pain are two sides of the same coin. So this idea that sex is romantic or anything, no, it's just an activity that takes place in order for the species to continue. That's about it. Without that strong desire, the species would collapse, and the mind turns it into something romantic, something special, something important, and that just leads to a lot of confusion. But when you know that you are, when you rest in the fact that you are, then if those desires fall away, that's fine. Because this is not about how to keep anything. This is about knowing what I am. When you know who you are, well, God knows, maybe you're supposed to be in a relationship with someone, maybe you're not supposed to, but either way, you're at peace, you're happy, and you don't put your faith in the things that are temporary. This being said from every single every single philosophy. When the Bible says, do not put your treasures on earth, when they can be stolen and they can rust and everything, put them in heaven, where they cannot be rusted, thieves cannot be steal them. Well, that's another way of saying, don't put your treasures, don't put your attention, don't put your trust in the things of this world that are constantly changing. Just trust the self. Just being with the self. And this is what the videos are pointing to. And this is very practical. It's not esoteric, because in the end, all that actually gets in the way to the fact that you are is believing the content of the mind. The mind, the thoughts, is the one that tells us how life should be, who I am, who I think everyone is, what do I think I need, and so. But in reality, if there's a realization that I am, you're resting in the I am, then You're trusting life. And you are life. And if you're going to trust something, which is not a thing, would be trusting life. And that gives you a sense of freedom, happiness, peace, joy. That's love. That's the love that you are. It's not the love you're going to find. It's not the love you're going to seek. It's not the love you're going to look for. It's not the love that you feel that is missing. It's the direct experience of being. That's the love this is all we're pointing to. Love doesn't look in a particular way. It just is. That's what it says love is. God is. I am. You see? So right now, when there's no identification with the content of the mind, I didn't say the thoughts will not be there. I just simply say when you don't identify with the content of the mind, when you don't believe the thoughts, well, what remains is love. If you don't cover the word with or overshadow it with any meanings, is love. You are love. You're resting in love. And interestingly enough, when you're not judging anyone or anything, all you're doing is extending the love to everything. Somebody once says that, I don't know, one of these poets says that the only thing that can separate me from my brother is whatever thoughts I am holding against my brother. What if these thoughts were not be there? If these thoughts were not there, there will be no separation. There will be just love. And no one would be excluded from you. Doesn't mean you're going to invite everybody to dinner. That doesn't mean that you're going to, become friends with everybody. No, some people have certain conditioning that they seems to act in ways that I may not want to be around them necessarily. But that doesn't mean I don't love them. It just implies that, okay, that's how you behave, and I respect that. That's your journey. That's your destiny. However, for now, as of this moment, but I will never stop loving you because I know who you are, because I know who I am. You see? So in the end, these videos are really about remembering who you are. And it's very simple. It's not complicated. Because it's not about finding out who you are, it's the fact that you are. You always are. You can never not be. Now look at the thoughts that are in the way. And that's how you notice, okay, I am. But then the thoughts that suggest I am this individual and the conditioning, that's just basically the obstacles that is not allowing you the experience that is taking place right now. You can never not be. Try not to be. Come on, give it a shot. Tell me you are not. Come on and tell me, you know what? I was a minute ago, but now I am not. You cannot. Because you always are. And that are-ness, or that isness, or that which you always are, is love. That's all there is. That's when Nisargadatta Maharaj used to say, when I know that I am nothing, that is wisdom. When I know that I'm everything, that is love. And between these two, my life moves. When I know that I'm nothing, no thing, that is wisdom. Because believing that I am something, that is ignorance. When I know that I'm everything, because everything is a part of me, that is love. You see? So this is what we're pointing to here. We're pointing to the fact that I am, and you don't have to figure this out with the mind, because the mind cannot figure this out, but we can point to what is right now. If you don't identify with the content of the mind, if you don't believe any thoughts, what remains? Don't answer. I'm not asking for an answer. I'm pointing. I'm pointing to the fact that right now, resting in what is, without believing the content of the mind, you simply are. And that is love. And then the trust is not directed to something. You live in trust because you're trusting life. you trusting your capital S self. Well, this is inspiration that came through. I hope it served. And as always, may peace permeate the mind so that love can be extended.